Is Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. It's 3:00 p.m. from what I can see. Anyone wishing to speak during open public comment, if you'll check in at the clerk's desk, that would be great. The first 15 minutes is designated for public comment if we have some. If not, we'll move on to the next item. Please silence all cell phones. A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is located on the north wall of the county boardroom. We have present today Commissioners Kelly, Klug, Warren, Mixon, and Burmeister, along with our county administrator, Bonnie Moore, our county clerk, Deb Hotaling, and we have our Jackie Moorhead for the assessor's office and Jeff Meixel for the treasurer's office. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is anyone here for public comment?
No.
Okay. We'll move on to the consent equalization agenda. Would anyone like to see any items removed from the consent agenda, or if not, a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Kelly, second by Commissioner Klug. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Item 6.1 is protest hearing, failure to file personal property return, Asthma and Allergy Center PC, parcel 010992839, Linda Ford applicant. Seeing no one here.
Jackie, did you want to?
Thank you, Dawn.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is a protest that the county clerks received in the mail. I believe that it arrived late. They were supposed to file their protest within 30 days of the notice of failure to file.
So can I just ask a couple questions? So have you seen this, something like this similar before, where somebody forgot to file their protest and then, actually, I think what I read is they forgot to file a personal property return for 2024.
Right. So our office, we send out a failure to file form notice, letting them know that they have a certain amount of time to file their personal property, but it will entail a penalty at this time. So
I mean, have you seen that happen in the past?
Yes.
And what's the traditional outcome of that? They pay the penalty and move on?
Really, it's pretty much on the taxpayers to file their personal property. So, I mean,
Well, maybe I'm asking the question incorrectly here.
Okay.
The question is, has the penalty been waived historically, or have people that forgot to file it had to pay it?
Not to my knowledge, the penalty has never been waived.
Okay.
And I see here that we have a request from Pat Sullivan, who's the attorney for this entity, asking that we table to give him an opportunity to be here to represent them. So table to November 26th. I'll just make that motion to table to November 26, 2024.
Can I ask a question first?
Sure.
What kind of penalty are we looking at, or what's the outcome here?
The penalty on this particular one is 25% of what the value that they report. And it would be $25, the penalty, on top of what they would have already owed.
Second the motion.
Okay, thank you.
Motion by Burmeister to table to November 26, 2024, second by Warren. Any discussion or further questions?
Need to have to move.
Oh, thank you. Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
All agenda items having been addressed as published, the Board of Equalization is adjourned and will reset for the Board of Commissioners. Welcome to the Sarpy County Board of Commissioners meeting. Today is Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. It's 3:06 p.m. We have present today Commissioners Kelly, Klug, Warren, Mixon, and Burmeister, along with our County Administrator Bonnie Moore and our County Clerk Deb Hotaling. Do we have any public comments today? Okay. We'll move on to Commissioners, Administrators, announcements, and comments, starting with Commissioner Kelly.
I don't have any, thank you.
No comments, thank you.
No comments. No comments.
No comments. Okay, moving on to the consent commissioners agenda. Would anyone like to see any items removed from the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Warren.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mixon. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Item 6.1 is legislative updates and 2025 forecast. Catalyst Public Affairs, Tim Gay, President.
Thank you. Tim Gay with Catalyst Public Affairs. Forecast, that's a tough one. But anyway, I do want to tell you a little bit update of the elections. I know you all follow them, being politicians. But first of all, congratulations. Everybody got reelected. It's good to see continuity here. That's a good thing for the county. But our election turned out, obviously, we had a lot of incumbents leaving. 16 new senators are coming in. So it's going to be a big, big change in the 49, state senators. The Republican and Democrat, even though it's a nonpartisan legislature, is still exactly what it was. I wouldn't say there's a big super majority that somebody can just go and shut off debate. I know that was the goal for some people. That's probably not going to happen right now. There were some upsets. Just very few people here in our county. Senator Jen Day, an incumbent, lost, and then Senator Ray Aguilar out in Grand Island, a Republican, he lost. So that kind of evened things out. And then Senator Mike McDonald leaving, he was a Republican. He was replaced by a Democrat. And then the other change was the Republicans picked up another one. Where's that, Jen? Oh, in Senator Walz's district, there were two Republicans running. She was a Democrat, now there's a Republican. But I would say, looking at it, we visited with most of the candidates, not all. Clear out in western Nebraska, sometimes it's hard to meet some of those people, but we met mostly with everyone around the Lincoln, Omaha, central Nebraska. There's a good crop of people coming in. I'm kind of excited, is what it is. I think there's an opportunity to learn, of course, when they come in and teach them about whatever your issue may be, in this case, county government. I didn't see anybody coming in, though, with a whole lot of county experience. There's some people out there who've been on boards and school boards and things like that, but no county boards. There's a firefighter got on board. We had a lobbyist, actually, lawyer, win down in southeast Nebraska, who has a lot of business and labor issues. So there's a really good group of people coming in that we're excited to work with and that you'd need to meet. I know here in our county with Senator Blood, term limited out down there, Victor Roundtree, he won. Seems like a nice gentleman. We stayed out of that just because there are two great people running. Same way Bob Anderson and Jen Day, her being incumbent. We kind of stayed out of that, but I know a lot of you have relationships with them too. So we're working right now to get something put together where you can all meet them and we can do our Sarpy County, here's our issues for our senators. I haven't told Bonnie yet this, but we're looking at a date. I'm having a little trouble getting the one date that's good. It's fairly hard to get 5 county commissioners and 5 senators together on one day, I found out. So we're looking around to see what we can do. And get that done. Senator Arch and Senator Holcroft are helping with Senator Sanders to put that together, but there's a lot of phone calls going around now. Some of the issues going forward, I think, that we're going to see, you probably have seen the governor, they made tax cut after tax cut for the last probably 7 years. There's a new revenue chairman going to come in. The vice chair is Senator Linehan leaving, but Senator Von Gillern is going to come in and be the chairman, most likely. There's a lot of new chairs to be elected, but he is vice chair. Everyone, I think, is comfortable with him being a chairman. So I'll go out on a limb on that one, that he'd be chairman of that committee. There's only, they passed these laws in the special session, the cut. that moved the taxes where you don't apply for your property tax refund. It's going to be sent to you and deducted. Well, there's a mistake, and we don't know if it's a mistake or not. They're still arguing this point. People have strong opinions that they skipped a year. So some of the farmers and ag guys are saying, wait, you're moving it ahead a year, but you still owe us this year. We're missing out on a lot of property tax here. So Senator Erdman, who's leaving, and others have said we have a problem. They're back and forth. But either way, there's a $560 million price tag out there that they're either going to try to pay, I don't know where they'd get the money, or move on. I don't know. That would be something interesting. But along those lines, they've made serious cuts on a lot of these budgets over the special session. Now we're sitting, the governor's still saying, I'm going to keep the pedal to the metal on property tax cuts. And there are lids put in place. On that, we'll see how that plays out. I know you've been looking at that and you still don't know all the answers. The lids on the cities and counties, but not really on the schools right now. So depending on that, how that goes, I haven't heard anything that they're going to get into that and change it around. I did hear, when we go do that report on the taxes and you got to go do the public report for transparency, that will have to be looked at because the timing is different. The needs are different. So there are people, NACO wants to look at this, and the League of Municipalities, probably the schools, to say, how are we going to go make this report then? So, and that's the Ben Hansen bill. I forget the bill number, but it's the postcard thing. So that'll probably be looked at. And then just with a new crop of senators, I don't want to say, who's going to introduce what. You hear rumors and things like that. But I assume some of the things you heard in the special session will be brought over, like I'm guessing you're going to see probably a tax on gambling, on online gambling. Some of those revenue sources they talked about that didn't pass. Will they bring some of those back? If they do, there'll be a fight on those, like all tax increases. So you'll see that. The medical marijuana bill that passed, which, that's still litigation, whether that is an issue or not. You've got to start drafting that. Somebody does, because there's certain deadlines that has to be done. And so they'd have to do that. So I don't know, who's going to take the lead on those things. There are there's 7 chairmanships up for reelection. So we're going to have the one that we'd pay attention to, a couple, but judiciary is a big one that you, of course, follow. But the government committee, Government, Military, and Veterans Committee, Senator Brewer's gone. So we'll see who gets on that. I know, there are people wanting to run for a lot of these positions. So that's going to be interesting too. Not just that, but the whole makeup of the committees is going to change. So appropriations committee, all these are losing 3 to 4 people sometimes on these big committees. So it's going to be really interesting to see who gets on what committee, how we're going to deal with it, and what interest they will have, because you don't always get on the committee you want to get on. So those are some of the things on that. As far as the budget goes, their budget, like anyone else's, is looked at. You get a forecast. The forecast came out, if you didn't see that, it was like $200 million less than they expected. That doesn't seem like a whole lot when you're dealing with a $8 billion budget. But going into 25 to 27 budget, if that forecast comes in, there's 2 more forecasts, one in February and one in April, right before they adjourn. So if those are down more, you're going to see some serious budget moves because they're already in the hole right there. There's a big cash reserve balance of like $800 million, so they could use some of that. But these things go quickly. It sounds like a lot of money, but the way it's kind of set up, it's going to be interesting. So it could be, when we had a talk with the speaker, it could be one of those things that don't bring a bill that has a fiscal note on it. So, when you say what's the forecast going to be and what are the bills going to be, well, how much money do you have? So anyway, a lot of moving parts on that, as always in the year. What we've been doing, Bonnie and Angie and David Klug, we've been meeting with some of the senators. Sarah Holdcroft has been very gracious with his time. As we've met with him a couple of times, we have a lunch set up with Sarah Holdcroft John Cannon, myself, Bonnie, and that's more like what bills does he wants to introduce some bills for you on the unfunded and underfunded mandates. We just don't know exactly which one yet because we want to work with NACO and John Cannon. They're having discussions on that too. So what would he want to do? We met with Speaker Arch. It was a good conversation with Speaker. He's like us. He still needs to meet people too. So I assume he will be elected speaker again. So we'll see on that. So we've got that. We're trying to set up a meeting where we can get all our Sarpy County senators together. That, like I say, that's been tough. That would be just kind of like the Sarpy 101 that we wanted to do. Well, it's way easier to do it if we can get them to come here instead of when they're trying to move offices, trying to figure out what's going on, especially the new ones. It gets a little overwhelming. So we're trying to get that done. And, other than that, our team, myself, who comes with me to a lot of that, Taylor Gold, he's been with us a couple of years. Kelly Witkowski, she's kind of does our back office. We got Chris Jones, she does a lot of our health and human services thing. And then we have a fiscal analyst, Liz Haruska, who helps with a lot of the fiscal issues, which is a huge help. She had been 38 years in the office, and she kind of helps on the side during the sessions and just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the budgets. So, but anyway, a lot of things going on. I know you all follow this as well as you can. I don't have a ton of insider information yet either. I mean, like I say, we're looking at it as what a good opportunity. The one thing that I do think is going to happen is we're losing some senators who had a lot of experience, but they also had a lot of, they're interested in just a few things, So we'll find out who wants to be the lead on tax cuts, who wants to be the lead on education, those kind of things. So it's just one of those things you don't know. But I think this is probably maybe a good thing with term limits, people leaving and some new ideas coming in. So we'll see what happens there. But other than that, if I missed anything or something you wanted to cover, any questions, happy to try to answer.
The one item that you brought up, the $560 million, that's not chump change, of course. So I'm just trying to understand, obviously it was in the legislation that was passed in special session, correct?
This is carryover money that they have.
Okay. So I don't understand how we can come up with that kind of money. I mean, it looks like a timing issue or something. Can't they? How can they correct or
if they want to
explain it a little bit more?
Okay. So if they want to correct this, basically to get your tax credit, you had to go apply for it, right? 40% of Nebraskans did that. That means 60% didn't. So in order to get the tax relief out, they said, we're going to do it. You don't have to apply for it. It's going to be credited to your bill, to your property tax bill. You're going to take it out before it gets there. And I'm no accountant, so this is generally, and I think they're still working this out too, to be honest with you. So, but by doing that, if you delayed your taxes or did something you hadn't filed yet or had an extension, those kind of things, they're not giving you that. So people are coming back saying, you owe me from the prior year. I filed an extension. I didn't get it. So they're saying we're skipping a year to get caught up. So anyway, by skipping that year and holding off, we didn't pay out the $560 million. So some of these people are saying, well, I need that because I applied. I wanted to apply and I didn't get to, that kind of thing. Generally, that's the big thing. That's the money they think. So some people say, no, we took care of that. That's the law. You weren't owed it because that wasn't in the law. But other people say, no, you kind of promised we were going to get this money. So there's an argument between the Revenue Committee and the people that are saying this.
Okay.
So even they haven't decided yet that it's correct.
Okay, I'm still a little confused because we're looking at two different items. It's a property tax credit, but you had to file it on your tax return in the past, and 60% did not file it. So is there a statute of limitations? It's usually 3 years on the taxes. If you're behind 3 or 4 years on your tax returns, whether you've got refunds,
Yeah, now
whatever.
you're getting, yeah,
So
I see what you're saying.
then you have a cutoff there. And then the other side to that is it now going to come off the actual property tax from the county when you pay your property tax, or is it going back to your income tax? But
No, so, well.
I'm confused.
We're gonna, yeah, well, you're not the only one, and so am I, but so are they. So when they did that, there's a bucket of money.
Right.
They called the property tax reserve fund.
Is that the money that
That was
people
set
haven't
aside
claimed?
because they had excess money.
Okay.
And it comes from, there's always a fund, and it's basically, it's a tax credit fund that has always been there from way back. And then what they do, we're going to take out of that fund and give you a credit. Instead of don't collect the money, they collect the money and they give it back to you in a credit form. But so they had a bunch of money built up through that, and income was coming in well. So from that bucket, that's what they had. The bucket is only so big. But when they paid out that, the 60% that didn't collect, it was still in this fund.
Right.
So they're still using the same fund. But what they're saying, I didn't get my taxes filed to get out of that fund because I did an extension and I did whatever. And that's what they're saying. Nope, you can no longer get into that fund. You're going to get it next year. So there's a gap there that people and accountants are arguing on the same thing. So we're not going to figure this out right now.
Okay.
I'm
All
just
right.
telling you, it's very confusing as they go forward. Some people are going to say we need this money, others aren't.
Okay,
But
but
on the other thing, there's a big bucket of money that they have that's just sitting there. So you got the cash, you have your 3%. You always have to keep some money in the budget for your reserve under the law. Well, then there's another big pocket of money too, not related. They could take it from that, but I doubt they will. That's like 800 million.
Okay. My concern, and it's, obviously it's not your job or my job, but it's their job. My concern is we're not getting money, paying. Some people are going to get twice the benefit, and all of a sudden, where's that money coming from and who's paying for it? But what you're saying, what I'm hearing is that bucket, the 60% that haven't claimed money, because that bucket was there for them, and if they haven't claimed it, it's still in that bucket. So that's what you're.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because they didn't.
Well,
But
I'll let
like
them
anything,
sort
you
it
got to
out.
claim. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about this next year. I'll try to get it more clarified because there's going to be a bill to come back and pay those people. And whenever that bill,
Well, I just-
because several senators have said we're going to introduce the bill to fix this. It'll be interesting to see what
I
they
just
do.
don't want to see some people get the loophole and get twice.
Oh, I don't
That's-
think people. Yeah, I don't think they'll get it twice. I think the people that didn't get it are.
Yeah, I
They'd be
thought
upset.
it was my understanding that once they passed this law, that going back, trying to collect stuff that's in the past is that ship sailed. That's the way I understood it. And that was the grievance with a lot of people that, well, okay, I wasn't aware of it, so I didn't get that money, but now I want to go back and file the 1040X
Right.
and claim that, which could be, thousands of dollars.
And
for
you
a lot
have
of people.
3 years. Typically, you have 3 years
But
on
I don't think
taxes.
I don't think under the law you do.
Don't think that's going to be
Doesn't
allowed.
apply,
That's
'cause it's
what
Anyway,
different
I think this is what
statute.
we'll write down for you.
Well,
We'll be
I don't
talking
know
about
how-
this next
I don't
year.
know how they can get away with that because if you have 3 years to amend your return, I don't think they can just. Well, we'll see. But-
Well, I'm sure
okay.
we'll be having something. I'll get an accountant to write it up so it makes sense. But this will be an issue next year, I guarantee
So
you.
the thing I wanted to maybe focus on a little bit, you mentioned that there were no county commissioners elected to the legislature, but there were a lot of local control kind of people. I mean,
And the mayor.
Senator Sanders was a former mayor, the mayor of Kearney.
Stan Klaus. Yep.
Yeah, so I think there's people down there that understand how local governments work. But I think what none of us understand is what the impact of the legislation that was passed, capping us at 3% is going to do. And just looking at the you know, looking at it from my vantage point, it's going to impact the way we deal with a lot of state agencies with regards to those underfunded or unfunded mandates. We're just going to start saying no.
Yeah.
We won't have any choice.
Yeah, Stan Klaus is the only one I saw that had any
Yeah.
elected, you know, being a mayor. I think he was mayor out there for 12 years and maybe 8. He's on the council. Anyway, he won.
But I think what we need to do as a board is figure out what our priority legislation is going to be in this next session, and then line up some support to try to sponsor it for us down in Lincoln. And I don't think we've done that yet, have we?
We're working on it right now. I mean, yeah, I think we've narrowing it down to it's going to be, of course, those unfunded mandates, and they're doing a study on that. There's inheritance tax discussion next week. There's a hearing on that next Friday. So a lot of this stuff got delayed. You know, you had a 6-week special session that ran, well, for 3 weeks, everyone's talking about it, right? And then they called it, and then for 6 weeks, they were a special session. Well, that's usually the time where people are doing interim studies, vacations, whatever. So you took the heart of the summer from June through July or whenever the time was. And so a lot of people were not keen on having their interim studies and things. It's like, I've been here all year now. So I think a lot of people are a little burned out, the senators. And a lot of these senators, remember, were term limited. They're out of there. So the minute that special session was done, they're not really going to come back for interim studies because I'm not going to be around. So I think that really slowed things down. Right now, people are looking, and that was one thing too, Commissioner, reminds me. So not a big deal, but there is a limit of 20 bills, which is a lot of bills anyway. But some people were dropping like 60 bills. They're gone now.
Yeah. So
that's
I
probably,
think, but I still think that.
So we got to get the right people to introduce their
We had a
bills.
pretty good amount of turnover. And with that turnover, there were a lot of, you know, how they always carry over the bills year after year after year. But a
Yeah.
lot of those bills are just going to go into the dustbin of there's nobody left to sponsor them because they're not in the legislature anymore. It'd be nice to know how many bills you think would, you know, we would estimate would just kind of fall off
I don't think
the
it'll-
agenda now because there's no sponsor for it.
I don't think it'll cut down a lot. There's always a few outliers that'll introduce 60 bills. A lot of people, there's one senator, she introduced 3 bills. Speaker Arch doesn't introduce a lot of bills because he doesn't like to be put in the middle, like putting my bill over your bill and then being accused of putting his stuff in front of it. So he's been a fair dealer, but he gets 25 picks on speaker bills. So I don't know. This is the first year they did that. I don't think it'll limit it a lot, but we're still probably talking 600 to 700 bills. I'm guessing. It's amazing how new senators can write bills. They're handed ideas, right? And then they introduce the bills. It's not like we're campaigning. I got this greatest idea, and now I'm going to go introduce a bill. So they'll be handed bills by lobbyists and governments and schools and citizens. And so I still think we'll have a lot of bills, maybe not as many as we've had. And maybe too, because of that special session, people like, I'm not going to introduce that many. It's every year's a new, yes. Then again, that's speculating. But yeah, so like I say, we are actively, we know Senator Holcroft said he's going to introduce some bills. Senator Sanders has always been good to us. Our senators are pretty darn good. But sometimes we don't want our own senator to do it because they're not on that committee or they don't have that expertise. The one thing probably, Carolyn Bosland, she was appointed by the governor. She's a young attorney. She might be the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, which Justin Wayne was the chairman of that. So, you know, sometimes you want somebody on that committee to introduce it too. You just got to pick and choose. There's nothing perfect. And the other thing too, that senator has to be interested in the subject. You know what I mean? Because if you're not really interested in the subject, sure, I'll introduce that bill for you. They'll go through the motions, but they won't like go fight for that bill. So we want to get somebody who really has a concern and dang it, I want to pass this bill. That helps a tremendous amount. And sometimes, like I say, like Stan Klaus, he'd know a lot about cities and things like that. So maybe he'd introduce a bill on So I'm sure plenty of people are going to be talking to him too. So
Are you aware of any tri-county initiatives that you've heard from the other
like
counties?
bills,
Yeah. that
I haven't
we
seen the
wanna
list
jump
yet.
on
I know
together?
they're going to have a meeting soon. I haven't seen the list yet. Usually they'll send out a list, but yeah,
Okay.
no. And the same way there, a lot of people are the same boat. Like I'm pretty sure everyone else is sitting there like, oh, what are we going to do? You know, because they were all cities, counties, and schools were all busy over the summer, you know, day by day watching this thing. So,
Okay.
and traditionally too, I'm not going to say it all in that special session. That was they don't happen. And that was the longest one I think ever in 30 years or 60 years. But it's traditional that people will kind of start doing it in November, December. It sounds good to say, boy, we want to do all this stuff in the summer, but people are going on vacation. The school starts in the early, fall, and this is usually about the time everyone starts getting excited and introducing the bills. And on the bills, the legislature won't start till the 8th this year, and you get 10 days, so 10 working days. So you got till like January 20th to introduce bills. So it's not a huge rush, but it also is. You want to get it done enough to get it to bill drafters that you're not the last guy in line doing it. So, but I think we're fine on that. I'm not losing any sleep over if we had to introduce 5 bills or whatever. That's not a problem. And NACO, I have the NACO list here from last year. They're going to still do the same thing. About every year they have the same thing on there. Inheritance tax, some of the same issues that you care about. So, get anything?
I was just going to say, Tim, thanks to the work of you and your team and the legislative committee and the board, there's a tremendous amount of coordination that goes on, especially those first 10 days of bill drop. And also, I just am grateful for how accessible and available the SRP senators are, and just want to give a plug. I see Karen Gibler with the Chamber. The Chamber does 3 legislative coffees every session, and that's a great opportunity to interact with our SRP senators.
Yeah, and that's one, I know several of you do attend those chamber things. Those are super important if you can go. I know you're busy too, and you got constituents always in your ear, but sometimes that's really helpful because they see you there and you can remind them of what we talked about and things like that. And I know several of you go to those, and I appreciate it. But yeah, that's always helpful too. We're going to try to do, stay on this issue, where it's like Commissioner Burmeister would be talking on the same bill at the same time with multiple, because she would know that bill a little more. And then maybe Commissioner Warren or each one of you kind of divide and conquer, because you need to really know or testify what we're talking about when we go do that, because they get pretty smart pretty fast. I mean, that's the good thing. And the other thing too, just because we're trying to get everyone together, they are really good. If I go down and go to their office or say, hey, can I meet with you? I could go meet with them tomorrow or the next day. So they're very, very good that way. It's just getting everyone together is somewhat hard, because remember, everyone else is asking them to meet too. They are state senators, even though there are senators, but in the county. So good point, Bonnie.
Any other questions for Tim?
All right, thank
Appreciate
you.
it, Tim. Thanks so much.
Yep, thank you.
Item number 7.1 is executive session for discussion of a legal matter.
For the protection of the public interest, I move that we go into executive session to discuss a legal matter and real estate matter.
Second.
Motion to go into executive session for real estate and a legal matter made by Commissioner Klug, second by Commissioner Mixon. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
It's now 4:20 PM. At 3:35, we went into executive session where our discussion was restricted to a legal matter and real estate. I need a motion that we return to regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to return to regular session by Commissioner Mixon, second by Commissioner Klug. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
All agenda items having been addressed as published, the Board of Commissioners is adjourned.
Putting your hat in the ring. Putting your hat in the ring on that.